This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. Last night, something reprehensible took place on the floor of the House of Representatives. Rashida Tlaib was censured. Final vote was 234 to 188. There were a few that abstained or just voted present. I think 2 Democrats and a Republican. But 22 Democrats joined Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republicans like Matt Gaetz, Republicans like Lauren Boebert, joined them to censure Rashida Tlaib. And the way I understand it, it mostly revolves around her use of a statement that from river to sea, Palestine will be free. Some claim that that's an anti-Semitic genocidal statement. Doesn't seem like it is to me, but I will refrain from that. I will leave people to either side to argue the details of that. Typically, when someone says something is bigoted or racist against their particular group, whether that be an ethnic group or a religious group, I tend to believe the group. This doesn't seem like that to me, but I'm not a Jew, I'm not a Muslim, so I'll bow out. But I can tell you this. I don't know Rashida Tlaib. I don't know if I'm getting cold or what, but I don't know her. But I think I've got a pretty good bead on people. I think I've got a pretty good judge of who people are at their core. She seems like a good person. She seems like a loving person. She's certainly not a terrorist or terrorist sympathizer. She seems like someone who's just outraged, as am I, at the brazen military occupation, the military operation that is currently killing scores of women and children, non-combatants. And for those of you, there are some out there who will say, well, Hamas uses them as human shields. So you would advocate for, if there's a murderer, a known murderer, who's being pursued by police, and the murderer grabs an innocent civilian and, no, not this time, coppers, you think the cop should just fire a bullet through the hostage into the murderer. That's what you believe? Because that's what a human shield is. So if you think it would be reprehensible for a police officer to do that, kill an innocent civilian, just fire a bullet right through him to the killer, if you think that would be bad, then why is it on wholesale to kill women and children who are Palestinians? Just a question. But we have a list of 22 Democrats who should be on everybody's shit list right now. I'm going to play 2 clips, and then I'm going to play a little bit from Rashida Tlaib and her speech last night. First is Jamie Raskin, one of many Jewish members of Congress. He had this to say in support of Rashida Tlaib.
Even it doesn't make any difference. She won re-election with 71% of the vote in Michigan's 12th district, and if anyone's going to punish her for her political ideas or performance, it must be the people of her own district who sent her here to represent them. Mr. Speaker, the disciplinary process should never be used to punish the political speech or viewpoints of a member of this chamber just because the majority disagrees. The punishment of political viewpoints will mean that members will be censured just for being in the minority rather than in the majority, and that will come to stifle our dialogue and haunt all of our work. For example, the good Speaker of the House, who is my friend from the Judiciary Committee, has taken positions in the past arguing that sex between consenting gay adults should be a crime, that the Supreme Court was wrong to strike down sodomy laws in Lawrence versus Texas, and wrong to give gay people the right to marry in Obergefell, a right that he said is, quote, the dark harbinger of chaos and sexual anarchy that could doom even the strongest republic. Now, the vast majority of Americans reject these positions as extreme in public opinion polls and believe all citizens should have the freedom to pursue their own love lives and to marry. If the House majority changes hands, should we actually censure the former Speaker of the House for his constitutional apostasy and thought crimes against the rights of millions of Americans? I sure hope not, because the gentleman from Louisiana is absolutely entitled to his political and religious views, no matter how far outside the constitutional and American mainstream they are. Under the First Amendment, extremism is in the eye of the beholder.
All of that was salient. All of that was logical. All of that was reasonable. All of that was correct. Jamie Raskin, there are few people in this world who I don't know that I really admire, look up to even, and he is one of them. Another, someone who I admire his intelligence, I admire his tactics, I admire his tone, I admire his energy, is Jamaal Bowman, former guest on my podcast. He had this to say in support of his friend and colleague, Rashida Tlaib.
I rise in opposition to this resolution. First and foremost, can we please stop misrepresenting Representative Tlaib's words? She does not want to kill Jews. She is not in support of Hamas. She is speaking as someone who is the only Palestinian American to serve in this body. Without her voice, we would lack even more empathy for the people of Palestine. We would not have someone with direct personal experience speaking against the siege that is happening now in Gaza. This body needs empathy and compassion for all people, not just people that look like the majority of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. And maybe because of your lack of diversity, you lack the cognitive and emotional ability to recognize diverse opinions when they speak truth to power. And you absolutely need to open up your mind to other people and other experiences, especially when they are Muslim and when they are women and when they are people of color. You had a member of your party call my colleague a terrorist, and you didn't censor her. But we're having this conversation now about your interpretation of words.
Members are reminded to direct their comments.
And the people he was screaming at across the aisle are the ones that these 22 Democrats sided with. The wildly, overwhelmingly white Republicans, white Christian Republican, white Christian nationalist Republicans. Before I get to the names here, the 22, here's Rashida Tlaib herself. Look, you might disagree with that river to the sea, Palestine will be free. You might disagree with her calling for a ceasefire. You can call it what you want. Israel does have a right to defend itself against terrorist attacks, absolutely, without doubt, unequivocally, period. But they don't have a right to commit war crimes. I'll tell you that. They don't have a right to just wholesale kill, commit genocide. I mean, at what point, how many thousand children have to die before we call it genocide? Here's Rashida Tlaib making her case before the vote.
I'm the only Palestinian American serving in Congress, Mr. Chair, and my perspective is needed here now more than ever. I will not be silenced, and I will not let you distort my words. Folks forget I'm from the city of Detroit, the most beautiful, blackest city in the country, where I learned to speak truth to power even if my voice shakes. Trying to bully or censor me won't work, because this movement for a ceasefire is much bigger than one person. It's growing every single day. There are millions of people across our country who oppose Netanyahu's extremism and are done watching our government support collective punishment and the use of white phosphorus bombs that melt flesh to the bone. They are done watching our government, Mr. Chair, supporting cutting off food, water, electricity, and medical care to millions of people with nowhere to go. Like me, Mr. Chair, they don't believe the answer to war crimes is more war crimes. The refusal of Congress and the administration to acknowledge Palestinian lives is chipping away at my soul. Over 10,000 Palestinians have been killed. Majority were children. But let me be clear. My criticism has always been of the Israeli government and Netanyahu's actions. It is important to separate people and governments, Mr. Chair. No government is beyond criticism. The idea that criticizing the government of Israel is anti-Semitic sets a very dangerous precedent, and it's being used to silence diverse voices speaking up for human rights across our nation. Do you realize what it's like, Mr. Chair, for the people outside the chamber right now, listening in agony to their own government dehumanizing them. To hear the President of the United States we helped elect dispute death tolls as we see video after video of dead children and parents under rubble. Mr. Chair, do you know what it's like to fear rising hate crimes, to know how Islamophobia and anti-Semitism makes us all less safe, and worry that your own child might suffer the horrors that 6-year-old Wadia did in Illinois? I can't believe I have to say this, but Palestinian people are not disposable. We are human beings, just like anyone else. My city, my grandmother, like all Palestinians, just wants to live her life with freedom and human dignity we all deserve. Speaking up to save lives, Mr. Chair, no matter faith, no matter ethnicity, should not be controversial in this chamber. The cries of the Palestinian and Israeli children sound no different to me. What I don't understand is why the cries of Palestinians sound different to you all.
The cries of Israeli children and the cries of Palestinian children, they sound the same. If you watch that, and you didn't gather, you didn't infer, it didn't come across to you that she is a loving person who cares desperately for these children, both Israeli and Palestinian, then I can't help you. I don't know what to do. That is a woman who is deeply invested, not just because of her heritage and her religion and her ethnicity, but because she's a human being who is witnessing a grave injustice. The only Palestinian in the entire Congress of 435 people, and she gets censured while her countrymen are murdered by the government of Israel. That's not justice. That's a witch hunt, if you want to talk about in those terms. I know people are going to disagree, and we can disagree agreeably. I would ask this. Judge someone's heart. If you've watched me for as long as however you've watched me, and you know or you believed in the past that I care about people, that I end every video with be genuine and take care of one another, then judge me by that, like I judge Rashida Tlaib. Now, these 22 Democrats,
Palestinian people are not disposable.
While I'm angry at them, and they are on my proverbial shit list, which means nothing, who am I would hope that they would explain themselves and face tough questions. We will see whether that's the case.
We are human beings.
There's a lot of these people, these names that I recognize, I admire.
Just like anyone else.
Or at least have admired. Some, not so much. Seems like a problem. I welcome your input. We can have a conversation in the comments. I welcome that. Absolutely encourage that. You can also call and leave me a voicemail. I have a feeling I'm going to get a bunch. 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me as always. You can leave those as long as you want. daily@dollemore.com. If you appreciate what I do, if I'm your flavor of political commentator, if I didn't piss you off too much with this, please consider supporting my work, helping produce my work, grow this channel, knock my microphone over. Click the join button below. Become a channel member for $2 a month. Even better, you can become a patron on Patreon. If you become a patron on Patreon, before the end of the year, you'll get the end of the year gift that we send out to all of the Patreon family. Usually a little joke, inside joke gift, good times. Patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. You can hit the super thanks button. Make sure you follow me on social media. I'm at Dollemore everywhere. And I'll see you next time. I do appreciate you. Thanks for engaging. Be genuine. Take care of one another.